back. It is Friday, October 5th. It is rainy outside, it is overcast, it is dreary, it is typical Chicago weather, which is perfect for today's movie because it is a dark movie, bleak movie, and today's movie is going to be Hold the Dark, directed by Jeremy Saulnier. Hold the Dark is a tough movie to summarize without spoiling it. There's a lot of twists and turns that happen throughout this 2-hour-long movie, so bear with me. I'm gonna do my best to not spoil anything for y'all. So Hold the Dark starts in this small, cold, isolated Alaskan village, kind of away from everything else. And it starts with Medora, who's this mother who loses her son, presumably, to a wolf attack. And stricken with grief, she reaches out to Russell, who's a professional outdoorsman, trapper, overall jack-of-all-trades type of guy, and says, hey, listen, I'm stricken with grief. Can you please help me confine this wolf? I need to kind of get a little bit of closure. Let's kill this thing. Russell says, sure. Boogies on down to this remote Alaskan town, and that's where he starts asking her some questions, starting to research the tracks that these wolves have left behind to try and see if he can find the pack of these wolves where they're at, because there's been multiple attacks on this village. That's where the movie starts. So you go, okay, it's a revenge film. I'm ready. Let's get after it. Russell starts to kind of pick up a couple things, though. He starts to realize that Medora, this woman, really has a lot of kind of dark undertones and isn't necessarily telling Russell everything he needs to know. Concurrently, while this is being shot in this bleak village, Medora's husband, Vernon, is a soldier fighting in Afghanistan. So it's a really cool switch to go from these dark blues and whites to this hot, blazing Afghanistan location. And this really isn't a spoiler, but Vernon ends up getting wounded and sent back home. This is where the story takes a huge turn. So you go from this nice, subtle kind of revenge film, we're gonna kind of casually hunt wolves together, to Vernon gets home, just realizes his son is dead, and just snaps. And I don't know if this is a political commentary on kind of soldiers coming back with PTSD, but Vernon goes on this kind of homicidal rampage and basically starts killing anybody who remotely gets in his way. And here's where the second kind of adventure starts. Dora, the woman who reached out to Russell, who lost her son to the wolf, she goes missing. Presumably, we think she's trying to find these wolves as well. Here, Russell teams up with one of the police officers in the area to try and track down Medora and also try to stop Vernon from killing any more people while he's trying to find his own wife. Halfway through the movie, you get an awesome firefight between these local police officers and one of Vernon's buddies who happens to have a massive machine gun. So if you're a fan of action, it is a great scene, but it's also horrifically violent, so pretty intense. And that's probably where I'll leave you, because if I say anything more, it's going to really spoil it. Again, it starts as a revenge film, then all of a sudden Vernon comes back home, realizes his son's dead, goes on this kind of craziness, and is trying to find the wife. So basically you have two parties trying to get to the same conclusion. We need to find Medora, and that is Hold the Dark. So ultimately, I enjoyed Hold the Dark. It's a good movie, it's very well made. Jeremy's clearly a talented director, but to be completely honest with you, it's probably my least favorite of his movies. Now, that's not to fault the man too much. He clearly tried something radically different, I think, from his different movies. Where I think Hold the Dark starts to slip a little is they did such a good job creating this bleak landscape, and they also paired it with a bunch of really quiet and kind of somber characters that 90 minutes of that you start to kind of, I don't want to say lose interest, but it loses the impact. That's why early on in the film I was so excited when they would switch from Alaska to these kind of bright and hot Afghanistan shoots where there's these small firefights, because it would take you away from the bleakness, and then when Vernon returns back to Alaska, you were like thrusted back into that world again. Oh, I forgot about this is right, and it hits you in the heart. But then 90 minutes goes by of this dreariness and kind of quiet characters and twists. Then there's a firefight, and then back to where are these people going? We need to get to Medora before Vernon does, and then the movie ends. And so the pacing was good, but I think the movie needed a little bit more color, so to speak. It's one of those movies that just kind of ends and, ties up the story for the most part. For a 2-hour-long movie that starts off as a revenge film, then turns into a little bit of supernatural, and then a kind of homicidal rampage action movie, I still would recommend watching this movie if you're a fan of his films, or if you're just looking for just kind of a dark, dreary movie to just kind of sink your teeth into. Let's talk about what beer is going to go best with Hold the Dark. And again, I've said these words tons of times, it's a bleak, dark, dreary film. We're going to need a dark beer to go well with Hold the Dark, so I'm recommending Boulevard's Tough Kitty. It's a milk stout, and we're going to need something dark. So let's see how dark this sucker is. Yeah, that looks about right. Sweet, smooth. Yeah, that does it. It's a terrific dark milk stout, smooth in flavor, a little bit of sweetness, maybe a little bit of cocoa in there. Yeah, hands down. Hands down. When you're thinking about the perfect companion beer, cold, isolated Alaskan village, and you need something to kind of accommodate that mood, you're definitely gonna need something like this. All right, guys, that does it for today. See you back here tomorrow.